then I also can't replicate what makes that skill.
Yep.
I had a rather emotional response to finishing the book Mistborn, first of a trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, and I'll share a little bit more about that later on today's video. But first, Nathan, how about you share some of the progress that we've had since last week?
We've actually had some quite significant progress. In our brainstorming session last week, we pretty much figured out the big picture of our plot. We kind of had the big picture already, but kind of more cohesive, and we've gotten to the point where we've answered almost all of the why questions that we had going into coming from the big picture, all the why questions of why does this happen? Why do these characters do this? Why not this? This seems like it would be easier. We've pretty much gotten, we think, good answers to all of those questions. And that was a really big milestone for us. We felt really excited seeing that come together like that.
Right. We had talked earlier about we have these bones of a story and finally connecting all the whys into making it's at least a believable plot right now. That to picture the skeleton, I think we probably have like the shoulders, the pelvis, and the basic limbs in place, but we still have a lot of the individual finger bones. There are a lot of areas now where we still have some more detail to work through, but the basic plot is completed.
Right. And as a result of that, the sticky notes that we've been coming up with, those ideas have gone from ideas on how to make the plot possible or plausible, and more on how to make it interesting. And a lot of ours, we haven't shared those ideas with each other yet. We're going to do that later today. But I think a lot of our ideas are now smaller questions about how characters interact. At least for some of mine, it's about how characters interact, how characters are thinking about certain things, rather than what the plot points actually are. And we're excited to share this plot with you at some point. Today is not a spoiler episode. We have another few weeks until that. And I know it's on our current schedule, it's going to be like 3 more weeks until we share that video, but we do kind of want to expedite that process a little bit. So we're going to...
Yeah, our plan is that we've been releasing these on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern time for at least this week, maybe next week. We're going to plan to also release another one on Tuesday. So we currently have a 4-week backlog where we'll record. We have 4 episodes that are currently scheduled on as we're recording this. They're currently scheduled on YouTube that we've already recorded and edited. And what that means is if you leave a response, it's going to take us 4 weeks before we ever get a chance to respond to or address any comments or questions that you leave. So we want to try to reduce that a little bit. We'll try at least 1 week. We'll squish that or accelerate that this time, and we'll have to decide whether we want to keep doing that. It means that we have to make sure that we get our editing and processing done in a shorter period of time. We don't have as much of a buffer, but I think that's what we want to do.
And another one of the benefits is when we're responding to your comments, it's going to be a whole lot easier for us to remember what we actually said in the video. And we're not, you responded, what are you responding to? What did I say here? So that should make it a little bit easier for us. And then, like you said, any comments and things that you want us to address in the video or change in the videos, we'll be able to do that a lot faster moving forward. But you said you had a response to Mistborn that you wanted to share. And I have not read the Mistborn series at all. You've shared with me a little bit, but I'm excited to hear what that is, how it affected you.
The response that I had, the emotional response, it really had nothing to do with the plot. It could have been about any book. But what I noticed at the end of reading it was that I felt emotionally attached to the characters. I saw that there was this remarkable balance between closure, a satisfied sense of closure for part of the story. I even got almost teared up, very emotional in seeing the way that there was some resolution to some things, but yet at the same time, there was enough that was left unaddressed, interesting questions that seemed to be introduced at just the right time toward the end. Like, oh, yeah, I didn't notice that. That left enough threads hanging that there was still some curiosity, but it felt like what I would consider a near perfect balance between persisting curiosity that I want to read the next book in the series, and closure that this felt satisfying to complete this book. So just as a reader, that was the emotional response. But then there's this meta response, the emotional response as a aspiring author to that emotional response as a reader was this. So far through this process, we've been talking about we want to be New York Times best-selling authors. Let's develop the skills and the craft so that we can be that good. And what I recognized after completing Mistborn was that I could not identify what it was that Brandon Sanderson did to create that sense of balance in the curiosity and the closure. And if I can't recognize what makes that skill, then I also can't replicate what makes that skill.
Yep.
And so that began to introduce in me I would say kind of disappointing. I wanted to be able to I want to be able to say, oh yeah, we can do this. Yeah, let's go. This was a little bit of a letdown. And I think that is part of what is going to be common in any writer's journey. I hear about this a lot. Oh, the roller coaster of, yay, I'm so excited about this, and the despair of, oh, I'll never be able to do this. I can't complete this. And so I felt a little bit of that this week. And that's really the response that I had. I'm just curious, as you've been reading, what has been your sense of possibility as an aspiring author?
So I've been reading the Harry Potter series. I'm almost finished with the second book. One of the things that I found interesting in the first book, I don't know much about the Harry Potter series, and I'm going to spoil a little bit of that right here, a little bit of what I do know. But one of the things that I knew about the series going in, the whole series spoiler, was the Snape kills Dumbledore. And so going into the first book, where having that idea and thinking that Snape was the bad guy, I was as shocked as the characters were to find out that he was not the bad guy in the first book. And that series spoiler was actually the anti-spoiler. I don't know how you... It was the misdirection for the first book, because it set me up to believe that Snape was the bad guy in that first book, when it was actually, I don't remember the guy's name, but it was actually somebody else.
So as an author, or aspiring author, what impact did that have?
So one of the things that made me think about is, how are people reading this for the first time going to see this? Because we have our whole plot laid out. We know what we want the end to be, but being able to get into the reader's mind and act as if you don't know the end of your story and think, if I'm reading this for the very first time, how is this going to make people think? So that's a skill that is going to take some time to figure out, and beta readers are going to help with that. And that's a discussion that we've had a little bit, is the discussions that you have with your beta readers is almost a skill in and of itself. You mentioned something like that in Mistborn about some information that was shared.
Right. The way that he planted a a question, something that would invite curiosity early in the story, and then that curiosity was satisfied later, but just before satisfying the curiosity, he had one of the other characters express that puzzlement and curiosity to re-invite the reader to remember that, or to notice, maybe for the first time, that piece of curiosity, so that the satisfaction of it could actually feel like a satisfaction.
Yeah, so just the being able to get into the mind of your reader, whether that's for how plot sets up other parts of the plot, or about how you were saying, just the emotional intensity of the characters and what they're going through, is something that I think is going to take a lot of practice, a lot of thought to see how we even go about doing this.
So one of the things I'd invite you to do is to share some of your experience in reaching the end of a story, either that felt very satisfying or that felt flat. What did you notice about what the author did, either did well to create that satisfying ending, or did not so well to leave that ending flat? And leave that in the comments, and look forward to hearing from you. And we'll see you on Tuesday,
Yes.
and again next week.
Yes.